So a little bit of background on your journey. So tell me, where are you from? Tell me also. So where does it start? Where does the Sean Stephenson story start?
Started in a hospital room in uh, LaGrange, Illinois, which is outside of Chicago. And my parents basically were told, your son's going to die. He's got this rare disease. I was raised from one hospital to the next. I spent the beginning part of my life in a hospital by myself. And back in the day, they wouldn't let the mother come see the baby until all the clearing, doctors were giving the thumbs up. So, I'm sure that was pretty traumatic to my family and myself as well. But then once I made it past those first 24 hours, then they said, well, he's going to die in the first week. And then I made it past that. He's going to die in the first month. And at some point, they're like, I guess he's sticking around. I mean, so just taking on the odds from the start. And when I got to high school and started becoming a speaker, started sharing a message of what it's like to overcome odds, and then that grew to talking about success and business and sales and confidence, and I've been doing this for 23 years now.
Let's go back a bit. I know when you were in high school, you were an involved student. You were an active student, right? Am I correct on that?
Absolutely.
So what was the kind of things what was the first thing in high school that you were like, you found you wanted to do? What was that first connection you had in high school?
Well, the first thing I did
Maybe it
is...
was middle school.
Yeah. I really didn't come into my own until high school. Middle school, I was popular. I had the pretty girlfriend, and I thought I was awesome. But then when I got to high school is when I really stepped it up and wanted to do something big that would get me noticed in my community. So I ran for student council vice president as a freshman and won. And I was vice president for a year. And then my next year, I ran for treasurer, and then I finally ran for president. And I got into...
Can I pause a second? Did you win president?
I did not.
You did not. Did you have a campaign slogan when you were running? Did you have that?
Yeah, wheels, not heels.
Wheels, not heels.
Yeah.
What was that like? Wheels, not heels. What was the thought?
It was like, look, like all these other candidates are walking. That's how they get their motion. I'm the wheel guy.
So the differential was the fact that you were rolling around.
Yeah, I would say I'm here to wheel my spiel. Wheel my spiel.
So, did you have a speech? That was like, when was your first speech you ever did?
14.
14 was your first speech.
Yeah.
To who?
It was to a neighboring school, and I was paid $75.
My first speech, I was 21 and I got $50.
Whoa.
And I had to split it with my speaking partner.
Okay.
So I made $25 each Canadian.
Sure.
So that's like 9 cents US.
Yep.
So it was nothing. But anyway, sorry, I digress. So so you went to president. You didn't win.
I didn't win, but I am glad in the big picture. No, I'm not. I'm not glad. It still bugs me.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Just because it meant so much to me. But the motivational part of me, who sees the big picture of life, knows that everything had to unfold the way it did. Because then I went on to run for something called Boys State in the U.S. by American Legion, and I won governor out of 1,000 kids. And then that. What's that?
What grade?
I would have been a 11th grade. So then, because I lost student council president, I went on to go win governor of this other organization that then led me to meeting the president of the United States, and led me to working at the White House and all the other parts of my story. So it had to happen, but it's still, looking back on it, that version of me would have much rather have won. Because I had spent, most kids, they want to get into athletics or the music or this, that, and the other. I was politics all the way. I wanted to be the student body president, because student body president got to speak at, because he was a valedictorian, it's the best in the class, and the student body president could address graduation. Well, I knew I wasn't going to be the valedictorian, because that wasn't my my goal or my abilities, really. But I knew I could have my shot at president. Didn't get it, but I was also very involved in our, we had a television station on campus. So I was a director of, we had a soap opera that I ran.
Actual soap opera?
An actual soap opera. It was a monthly thing. Yep. So because it would take a month to
What
gather
was the
all the
name for
footage.
it?
Living through high school. LTHS was also the acronym for our school, Lyons Township High School, and it was really fun. I was director, producer. I wrote the script. I got 22 actors from the campus to play along with it. Filmed it, edited it all myself, and I was actually going to go on to do television production in university, but it turned out that I went the political route instead.
Wow, that's a lot of work because back then there's no iMovie. You're not doing that.
No, no, no. This was VCR, tape to
Yeah.
tape, reel to reel.
Holy smokes! So you're done high school.
Yep.
You go where next?
I go on to DePaul University in Chicago. I was accepted to Columbia and was going to go into film, but then at the last minute I veered and went the political route because I got to meet the president, and I thought maybe I could be the president of the United States. This is what I'm going to do.
You really, at this point, you're still thinking.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, if truth be told, there's still, now that I'm 38, I'm 3 years into doing this thing potentially, because you only have to be 35.
Yeah.
So there are days where I see our U.S. presidential candidates, and I think
Why
I would
not
have a better impact on this
Why not
planet.
me?
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't rule out some type of office at some point in my life if the opportunity came about.
Now that's interesting because politics is obviously, I mean, I think everyone who gets in politics thinks they're going to make a difference. I really think that when Barack Obama got elected, he was like, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to change everything. And then he gets there, and he's like, this is not what I wanted it to be.
Well, one could make the argument that he did make a difference.
I'm not saying he did.
Yeah.
I'm saying like
It's
like,
not what he thought.
He's not what he thought. Like, he
But
was
that's
like, yeah.
all positions in life, There's times in being a speaker that it's not what you think. Everybody thinks that being a professional speaker is what you just saw on stage with me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not. What professional speaker is all the marketing and sales and emails and going to events. Like I went all the way to Switzerland. I waived my fee to do that in Switzerland, and I met you there.
Yeah.
And most people don't know that, like, you sometimes have to go to the other side of the planet, do some things for free to then get a paid gig, So
100%. It's an investment.
yeah,
So you're at DePaul. You graduate.
yep,
What's next? You graduated with what? What was your degree?
in political science.
Political science,
Yep, and so I was a poli-sci major, had enough electives to also have another major of psychology. Loved psychology, but this whole time I continued to do speaking, for money.
Right.
And what was cool about it was,
But back then you were speaking to students mostly.
yes, all students.
All students.
Yep. Occasionally, I would speak to a hospital, or I would speak at like a convention or something every once in a while. Maybe a small company, but it's mostly. I spent 12 years speaking just to kids, and what would happen is, because I was in college and taking classes, I would leave my. Remember the little cassette tapes?
Yes.
I would leave my little cassette tape recorder on my desk with my friend to leave on my desk, I should say, while I was somewhere in the country giving a speech to another university or high school or elementary school. And then I would have my buddy, when I would come back to town, give me the tape so I could listen to the lecture again, take the notes to pass the exams. And some teachers loved it because they were like, wow, you're out there making a difference and you're doing my class. Some teachers were like, you weren't in my class, you aren't going to do well here. So I had to navigate teachers. I've had to navigate challenges that people don't think I'd have to navigate. Like, people think, oh, you must have got bullied and teased growing up in school. A little bit, but more of the challenge was dealing with my friends' parents. Like, they would say things like, well, we don't want our children hanging out with Sean. They would either say to me, we don't want them hanging out with you, or to my parents, we don't want them hanging out with Sean because they won't get the exercise if they're not outside, or they're just going to get, their brains are going to turn to mush playing video games. And so there were a lot of times where parents would talk my friends out of being my friend. It made me angry, but it more made me sad, because I didn't feel like they were seeing the big picture, that I was going to teach their kids other things than just playing out in the woods. They would have enough time to do that with other friends. So, you learn to navigate challenges as they come.
Yeah. So you graduate.
Yep.
All done university.
Yep. Next was, well, because I continued to speak, so now I'm starting to make as much money as my professors as a professional speaker. So I was like, well, I already got a gig here. I got a speaking career. So I just continued to develop, and I started speaking to corporations. At some point, and this is going to sound bad, but I'm just going to say it. At some point, I aged out because the girls I was interested in, I was way older then, and that just became weird and wrong and illegal, and so you just don't want to go down that road, right? So then I was like, all right, maybe I should start speaking to companies, because then these women I could meet and talk to. And finally, the best thing that ever happened to me is when I got married, because I could just stop thinking about that and actually just be a professional speaker.
Right.
And as embarrassing as that is, it's the truth.
What's your next speech?
In Denver, Colorado tomorrow.
For who?
Uh, the the Cayman Islands Travel Bureau.
So different.
Little different.
A little different.
Yeah.
Is the message similar?
Similar message. Yeah. Some of the stories might change a little bit, but the message is still the same. You got to be your own best friend. You don't want to throw the shoe back at people. Your customers are people that they need to know you care about them before they will give you any money, and you actually do have to care about them.
What do you feel? I have a friend of mine who speaks, and he says he does corporate work. This sounds weird. He does corporate work to buy his Audi.
Yeah.
He does student work to fill his soul.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you in that spectrum? Do the youth audience like today? How's that differ to you? Like for you?
That pays my groceries. No.
Buys me a Starbucks coffee.
So what's the difference? Well, every audience brings a different feeling to me. Like when you were playing the introductory video at the start of the event, I was tearing up and I was thinking, I don't speak very often to the youth because my schedule is so busy with adult talks now, that it's good to every once in a while come back here, and it was a little bit of a hike to fly to Toronto and then drive at 10 o'clock at night, 2 hours. And I was cold, and I'm with my wife, and I'm like, why are we doing this? And then I hit the stage, and I see these beautiful smiles and the future of tomorrow, and I'm like, this is why we do this.
Yeah, as a speaker, I think too, often people don't realize the stage is where you love to be, but getting to the stage is the tough part.
Absolutely.
Let's go on from here. So, what is it you're hoping an audience like of young people like today? What are you hoping they're walking out of that with? Like, what is, if you could summarize, if you could put it into in a succinct thought?
Sure. Yeah.
What is it?
I would say love yourself. That, as cheesy as that sounds, it's challenging to go after your dreams. It's challenging at times to be told, no, that's not going to happen for you. When I wrote my first published book, we were turned down by over 24 publishers over the course 3 times over a course of 3 years. When I came out with a television show, we flew back and forth between New York and LA, and I heard things like, Sean, nobody can relate to a little man in a wheelchair. Sean, no, the only reason why you got to work in the White House is because of your disability. Sean, maybe you can just speak to students, but why should adults listen to you? And we got that book finally published. We got that TV show finally on the air, just from my sheer vision of saying, you don't see what I see. And that's why when I show up into an audience like today, my goal is to let these powerful young men and women to learn that your vision has to be so clear that no one else might be able to see it. But if you see it, that's what matters.
I know that you did the movie, The 3-Foot Giant.
That was a TV show.
TV show. Oh, sorry. TV show. I meant that. Sorry. And that was a lot of work for you to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know the story a little bit background because you told it. But it's a crazy story. But you connected more with something else.
Yeah. So.
Tell that story.
Yeah. So it took 3 years to get that TV show. It took 3 years to get that TV show. They spent $500,000 to make that show, and only about 70,000 people saw it. And then, fast forward a couple of years, I'm sitting, procrastinating, working on a project, and I turn on my webcam, and I hold up Post-it notes, because I had lost my voice that day, and I normally would make little videos, but this day I just decided to write my message on Post-it notes, and that video took me 2 minutes to film. Other than the equipment that I had, it didn't cost me anything, and that video went viral and started going up 1 million views an hour until it reached over 250 million people.
Wow. And why is that, do you think? What do you think the difference is? Why was that? Why did that connect more than anything? Why did that connect with 250 million people?
Yeah, I think that
And what was the ultimate message of
the
that?
ultimate message was, I'm sorry you have to go through the pain in your life, but it's what's making you stronger. So I wouldn't take it away from you. And you got to love yourself, you know. And the reason why I think it went viral to that level is because I was just loving them. And I wasn't asking for anything in return. There was no marketing pitch. There wasn't, because I've had people say like, "Oh, you should put a logo on that, and you should get paid to do that." And I said, the moment somebody can smell that there's a corporate agenda, that there's money attached to it, and I'm all for money. I think it can do a lot of good things. But the moment somebody feels like they're being sold something, it has a different aspect for virality.
It doesn't feel sincere.
It could feel sincere. I mean, there's some
the
great
advertising,
commercials,
yeah.
but people love spreading great content that the only mission is to just do good. And that went. I mean, Stu, I could do things for the rest of my life, and I may never have an accomplishment in terms of reach like that. That was hard to believe. I just kept hitting refresh. It filled up my heart and my head because I was like, holy cow, look at this thing. And day after day, it just kept going.
Bigger than a cat video.
Huge, huge. I mean, I've never seen something go that viral.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, all right. So today, 2018, where are you in your life now? What would you place yourself on your journey of life, 2018?
So where I'm at in my journey, I'm now, this is going to sound interesting, but I'm making this, I feel like cheesy as this sounds, like a caterpillar that's now like curled up, and I'm going from this crazy extrovert who's traveled the world doing all these speeches with all these people. I'm actually now exploring my introverted side. I'm spending a lot of time by myself. I bought myself a motorized wheelchair besides this manual one. So I get up in the morning and I head out to my favorite coffee shop with a journal, and I'm really getting to know me and figuring out some of the things that are important to me. So like, I'm working on a screenplay for a movie that I want to write. I'm putting together a one-man show. I'm getting into stand-up comedy. So there's these metamorphosis that's taking place based on me getting to know me versus feeling like I always need to be doing things for others.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's the ultimate question. So and it's hard to say because you're only judging yourself on where you are now.
Sure. Where would I like to be in 5 years?
Yeah, where would you like to be in 5 years?
I would like my comedy career to really have taken off. I think that I could be even bigger as a comic than I've been as a speaker because there's nobody like me out there. And laughter is so important right now on this planet. So it's fun to educate and teach like I did today, but to create moments where people can laugh, that's where we release the stress. What if somebody could laugh in their day that then could cause them to not do something down the road that could harm somebody else? Like, that's the power of laughter, is releasing that stress. So 5 years from now, I'd like my comedy career to be really taken off already. And I'd like some of my writing projects to be complete, like my screenplay being turned into a really good movie.
Is your screenplay about what?
It's about,
Can I ask
yeah. So I won't give you the total details.
I might steal it.
Yeah, well, I need to protect the intellectual property.
100%.
But it's taking everything that I've learned as a therapist for the last 18 years and making it into a 90-minute drama where people could never maybe go through therapy in real life, but that movie is therapy for them.
That's fantastic. So here's a couple more last few questions.
Yeah, take your time.
If you could send a tweet out, no, screw that. If you could send a text message out to every human being on the planet, so there's a Tim Ferriss has a great thing about having a billboard. If you could do one billboard in the world to say something for everybody, what would that billboard say? That your message, your thought, is succinct. So I'm more modern. People aren't doing billboards. So text. You could text every person on the planet with something. What is it?
I mentioned it earlier, but I still stand behind it, is love yourself and take good care of yourself. Because there's a precursor to self-love, and that's self-care. Because when you take care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit, then you begin to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, then you can begin to love yourself. But it's a process. Care, builds trust that then builds love. So I would say probably take good care of yourself so that we can make this world amazing.
Yeah, who inspires you?
My wife, Mindy, she is somebody who I could take 3 hours to explain something that she could explain in 12 seconds. She would look at the things that I do and she'll be like, why do you have to do this in 13 steps? Let's do this in 2 or 1. And I'm like, that's possible? And like, so being able to cut through the noise, she's incredible at. And she's taught me so much about leading with the heart and not always with the head, because I've studied my whole career the head, the psychology of life, because I wanted to figure out my own insecurities. And her sciences and studies as a doctor were in heart intelligence and leading with your heart. So learning a ton from her has been
Cool.
extremely valuable.
I met her. She's all right.
She's all right.
She's all right.
I'll keep her.
Where can people reach you? Like, how do they get a hold of you? How do they connect with Sean?
Yeah, I'm a lot of places. I would check me out on Facebook. You can look at, I think it's facebook.com /the Sean Stephenson. Another thing is you could check out my podcast, which
We'll link all this. In the
yeah.
show
So
notes.
my podcast, you can go to the website theseanstephensonshow.com.
What do you do in your podcast?
I help people find their message and their voice. Some people want to do that through blogging. Some people want to do that through speaking. But I help people find their voice and get it to millions.
As a speaker, what is the one thing you love? What is the one thing you don't love?
I unify the crowd so that they don't need me anymore. And I love that moment where a crowd comes into a room and they're kind of looking around, even with adults, not just kids, more so with adults probably, where they come in and they're looking around and they're not really talking to each other. And I take them on a journey of emotion for an hour. And then they're all connecting and hugging and laughing and talking. And when I leave and I'm watching from a distance that this crowd is now one, that's my favorite. Because that means I created more leaders, not more followers. My challenge, travel. As I get older, it takes more out of me. Different climates, different food. I mean, when you go into different, you show up at midnight to a hotel, the restaurant's closed, and there's all kinds of challenges. Then you're like, you're hungry, you're going to bed, and you're like, okay, I gotta sleep. And so just the tax of all the things that people don't see, that's probably the greatest challenge.
Can you share your most embarrassing moment that you haven't told on stage? For me, one time my stage collapsed when I spoke, and I fell through the stage.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I just disappeared. And I was gone. I actually peed my pants.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Personally, you want me to get here, but just
It's for everybody. This podcast is for everybody.
just last week, I went to go on stage and I farted in my pants, and a little extra came out, and I was like, I have to now speak now that I've farted, and that was an awful, awful moment.
This is why I listen to this podcast, because you get this interesting information from
Exactly.
Sean. Sean, thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for changing lives. Thanks for being you. Don't change.
I won't.
All right.
Thank you, buddy.